Hey everyone, this is Carter McKinney. This is episode 4 of the Entrepreneurs Club podcast. I have another great guest here, Bart Bailey of Courage to Care. He's an established author and many other things. I'm going to let him introduce himself, but thank you, Bart, for taking the time to come down to Venture X in Bethlehem. Shout out to Venture X, and let's see what you have for us today for our entrepreneurs.
Yeah, Carter, it's good to be with you. And I'll just make a brief intro in terms of, both the business and the book, right? And so Courage to Care is an organization that is all about our ability to connect with other people's humanity. What we also invite people to do is explore the layers of their identity that shape up who they are. So our approach tends to be just slightly different than many others. But that's one, so that's Courage to Care. And then the book is really me telling my story, upbringing, background, history, generational stuff that shaped the way I am. And I'm inviting people, each chapter, many chapters, to explore their own identity and what shapes them to be the human beings that they are. And what are some things that get in the way of connecting with other human beings, right? That has been poured down by your family members or loved ones through the lens of really protecting you, but sometimes those areas of protection really harm our ability to connect with other people. So that's the work that we do.
Okay, so before we get into your business and your book, why don't you tell people a little bit about who you are, where you were born, how you were raised, what brought you here to Lehigh Valley, and maybe even what keeps you here, and a little bit about yourself. I do also want you to touch on your interaction, I believe, with diabetes and weight loss. I'm a bigger guy myself, and people like you, I've shouted you out online, is very, very much example, very much leadership, and I look to you in that way of, weight loss. You've completely changed your appearance. It has to be close to 100 pounds or 50 pounds.
It's not that much, it's about 60. It's
60 pounds, that's a lot of weight. So things like that, if you could start the podcast with that.
Yeah, so a little bit of context. So we're here in the Valley, live out in the country area, and what I like to remind folks, we are all, if you're in this area, on unceded territory of Lenni and Lenape people. And so we bought our house here in 2012, somewhere around there. And one thing that is true is that we are stewards of the land. We often say, I own my house. Well, that house has been there before I was born, or before we purchased it, and will be the 2 trees and all that will be there long after I'm in a box. So I'm trying to be a good steward of that land that we pay this mortgage on right now. But I am someone who was born in York, Pennsylvania, and our family migrated from South Carolina to Pennsylvania, Bamberg, South Carolina. So my great-grandfather brought our family up and other families to York, Pennsylvania. And I was born there in 1968. A year after I was born was the murder of Miss Lilybelle Allen, which actually sparked a racial riot in York, Pennsylvania. My father, Lionel Bailey, was a civil rights leader and actually went down south to learn about the charrette process. The charrette process is a process by which communities heal. And so he actually led a lot of the charrette process after the murder of Miss Lilybelle Allen in York, Pennsylvania. We moved from York when I was growing up around when I was 7. I grew up in Prince George's County, Maryland. Prince George's County, Maryland is the highest per capita income for African Americans in the world. And so with that becomes a government that is primarily Black and brown led and has been led that way for a long period of time. One of the leaders who has passed, Wayne C. Curry, was a phenomenal leader in that county, executive director. And he's one who helped me navigate in some spaces as a young person. And my mother was in the county too. And so a lot of people who grew up in Prince George's County know my mother. The backstory is, college was paid for me because of sports. When I came out of high school, I was ranked in the top 3 in the nation in 110 hurdles. So I had pretty much pick of whatever school I wanted to. Ended up going to Fairleigh Dickinson University in Teaneck, New Jersey on a full scholarship. I picked that area because I knew I wanted to go into business. North Jersey, Bergen County, forget about it in terms of business. You're right outside of New York in Manhattan. So literally, my college experience was George Washington Bridge, get into the city, I could do anything I wanted to. Coming out of college, had an opportunity to look at Morgan Stanley investment firm or utility company. At that point in time, I ended up joining a utility company because I knew everybody wants lights. And so had an opportunity to work there and actually ended up supervising field crews. So when your lights went out, I was going in to ensure power was restored. And so traveled around the East Coast, Northeast, because we also helped sister utility companies when they would lose power, would send crews and I would go with them. But what I will share with you about that experience is, it's interesting who shows up to be your mentors, role models, sponsors. I had a lot of mentors. One, particularly Carl Brooks was one, but also this guy, Bob Haluki, who looked nothing like me. Short, white male, and one day he approached me and said, "Hey, I'm gonna come back and pick you up tomorrow." Bob picked me up the next day and every day for 18 months because he knew I never was a lineman, but I was responsible for line crews. So he wanted to make sure I understood the business. He showed me everything about the utility business, electric utility business. And so to this day, I don't really know why he did that. Bob passed from a brain aneurysm in 2003. And so never had a chance to find out why he chose to help me. But Bob was phenomenal. He wasn't just a mentor. I called him a family friend, but he was also a sponsor. He was in rooms that I didn't have access to, telling people I needed to be on projects. So you don't come across a lot of people that do that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the backstory, that I would say between the athletics and some other stuff that kind of shape who I am. And when I will share, and we probably get into it, but Courage to Care was formed because of living here in the Valley and my youngest son going through an experience of being bullied. And so, courage, the word courage is about the heart. And my youngest son, Ivan, had open heart surgery at 3 days old. So I'm intentional about the name. The name means something. So Courage to Care. Do you have the heart to care for other human beings? So the bullying went on for 3 months. It was 5 kids. We had an opportunity to talk to the adults at the school. The principal spoke to the families and the children that were involved. And I'll say it got better, but it still didn't improve his overall educational experience here in the Valley. It was not a good experience. But we navigated and did the best we could for him and for our family. So.
That's incredible. There was so much there to unpack. Thank you so much for sharing and having the courage to share that with us here on this podcast. Just a little bit of background about the podcast as well. We have people that are dreamers that are still looking to start their own business. Like you worked a job, or maybe they're looking forward to their first job as young people, as well as business owners, right? Someone like me, I'm a full-time business owner. I'm 25 years old right now. And, some people are more established like yourself or even retired. So we have all kinds of different people listening to this podcast, and each of them can learn something different from you. So let's get right into Courage to Care. Let's start there. So can you just tell people a little bit more about Courage to Care, what it looks like to be a client, a partner, someone to work with your business? I know you also have been traveling. It seems like you've been traveling a decent amount for speaking engagements and some other things. So what does that look like for you? Do you do like leadership trainings, diversity trainings? Like, what does that look like?
So it's all of it. So again, understanding that the foundation, the actual forming of the business was 2015. So when the incident happened with my son, one of the things I was already working for, I was starting a conversation with Cook Ross. Cook Ross was a firm in the top 5 as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I formed a business but ended up working for Cook Ross. So I worked for Cook Ross from 2015 to 2020. 2020, we actually started using Courage to Care because of the murder of George Floyd. And so we literally facilitated about 100 conversations with one client around race and racism and violence, all that kind of stuff. It was a large hospital with 47,000 employees, so we facilitated conversations around that and trying to get people to heal. So our work, at the end of the day, you said, what does it look like for our client? So one of the things we like to do, and typically all of our stuff has been referral. We don't market, I don't do advertising, I don't do any of that. Somebody will ask, well, who do you use? And they tell them. And so our approach, and the reason why I say it's a little different, is I'm going to ask a few questions. I'm going to ask somebody, let's say I ask an individual, what is your understanding of your identity? Do you know who you are? What shapes how you show up and how you see people? What do you honor about the legacies that have been passed down to you, even if they're harmful to other people? So I literally work with a family who purchased 6 of the 20 slaves that came off the boat, the White Lion. So when you hear about 1619, I'm working with one family who purchased 6 human beings in 1619. And so what I'm asking them to do, and their information is documented, well documented. So you can't say it didn't happen. You can't say our family didn't do it. But how do we reconcile from 1619 to 2025 what that meant to those 6 individuals, what your family has benefit from those 6 and the additional slaves that you purchased, how your family wants to change the legacy today, how your family wants to be honest and tell the truth about it, and then what do you want to do moving forward as an ancestor today? How do you want to, if somebody looks these folks up, I can say their last name, but if they look them up today, 5 generations from now, what will they say about them today? That's our work. So you can call it whatever you want to. You can call it diversity, equity, inclusion. You can call it leadership coaching. You can call it pixie dust. I don't really care. Our work is about what kind of human being are you? What's the legacy you want to leave behind? And that's for the individual. And I look at any organization, I don't care which organization you are, as a being. So if I got Global International, you are a being. What's the legacy you want to leave behind? I'm going to ask the same questions. What are the values on your wall? Are you living those values? Are all the employees aligned with those values? What gets in the way of those values? What does that mean for you as an organization? What does that mean for you as a community? What does that mean for your clients? That's my work. So you can call it whatever you want, but that's what we do.
Incredible. Okay. So how did it go? How was it for you to go from being a student to being a business professional and then now a business owner? And it sounded like there was about 5 years maybe of overlap with being a business owner and a working professional for somebody else. How was that for you? Like, how has that transition been for you? And especially now that you're an authority in your space, you're a speaker, so, and now an author, a published author, which we'll get into next. But what was that experience like for you and your family? And you know, what's different? What's the same? You know?
Yeah. So. So there's a couple of things you said, because you said business, you said basically it's being an employee, entrepreneur, and then a student. So being a student never stops.
Yes.
If you are a professional or a business owner and you stop learning, you might as well close your doors. If you walk, like most of my people I do the work with, I don't even really call them clients, I call them partners. I ask my partners not to call me an expert. I just have these conversations more than everybody, most people, but I'm not an expert. If I ever walk into a space and I say that I'm an expert, you need to tell me to leave. I'm telling people up front. If those words come out of my mouth, you need to fire me, because I'm not an expert. I have these conversations a lot. So I have significant experience, is what I would say. But what I'll share with you, and you asked about the family. So what has been the transition? So one thing you got to understand, right, is if you're going down this path, it's not easy. Now, with that being said, I do believe that if you're approaching it with the right framework, with the right mindset, and whatever your faith system is, you're grounded by that, things tend to work out the way they're supposed to. So the doors that have been closed need to be closed. And it's wild because other doors open up that I never thought. Prime example, you know, Carter, you've been on some of the conversations I've had with men of color. Mm-hmm. Our next conversation is going to be led by a friend of mine that I wasn't sure was going to be able to do it because he's busy. And so we had a conversation. He's like, Bart, I got you. I was like, I can't believe this. So he's going to lead the conversation, and I'm in Richmond, Virginia. This just literally happened. And this ties back to the business and the faith. Whatever your faith system is, I believe things will work out. Talked to him on Friday. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. And I want to invite this guy. I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. And he tells me the guy's name, and we connect on text, and we're going back and forth. And I was like, all right, you know, cool. And so I text the guy. I'm like, hey, I'm down in your area. I'm in Richmond. He's like, all right, yeah, man, okay. He's like, I got to pick up my family, this, that, and the other. It's Friday. Saturday, we do stuff. I'm out to dinner. Richmond is bigger than Allentown, way bigger. It's big, yeah. Right? So I'm in Richmond. Me and my family go to one restaurant. It's an hour-long wait. We're like, no, we're not going there. We go to another spot. Had some problems finding it. We find it, sit down. I text the guy and say, hey, man, me and my family out to eat. If we connect before we leave, cool. If not, I'll catch up with you. And I text him the spot. I said, hey, I'm at such and such. Put my phone down. This guy across the room stands up, starts walking towards me. He says, Bart. I'm like, it's the guy. That should never happen. Mm-hmm. The whole town of Richmond, I text this guy. He's sitting there with his family at the same time. I was almost moved to tears because I just so there's something else that I want to say in terms of this work. Something my mother said to me 4 years ago. She said, I understand the assignment. There's something about when you walk and live and breathe in a space of reflection and gratitude and understanding the assignment that has been passed down through generations that you were supposed to live, things happen. So me and this guy, who I never met, have a conversation. He's going to help me with the next conversation we're going to have, which is all about men of color and why sometimes we choose not to go to therapy. The work this guy is doing in Richmond and in Charlottesville for the past 3 years or 4 years, they've been healing the community after the Charlottesville Tiki Torch March. Like, and this is what I said, the spaces I'm in, this is the kind of work I do too. So I just say that if you, to me, or what has been true for me, I'm not gonna say for every business person, if I continue to be honest with myself and do the stuff that I'm supposed to do, the work has come, right? We've had some clients not be able to move forward because of this current administration, but we've had 3 or 4 new ones that I didn't expect. So we continue to move forward.
Okay, beautiful. Well, congratulations to your growing business and family and everything. Let's talk about It's in Your Bones. It's in Our Bones, sorry. And the fact that you've sold more books than the average author in their lifetime in a matter of 6 months, which kudos to you, that's incredible. I was there at your, book signing and book release event, 2 of them actually. And, tell us a little bit about what it was like becoming an author. Did you always like reading? Was that something in school that you liked? I know I didn't. And people like yourself, black male authors in general. I never really thought that, I could become an author. I just never thought about it. So what went into this book? What did it take, and what was your journey way before you wrote it that fed into this as well?
Mm-hmm. So you asked if I was so I'll say this. So coming out of high school, my high school experience, I was bored. So grades weren't good, but I was smart and intelligent. I was bored with school. So I would act up in class. I would constantly get kicked out of class. Constantly. However, because of athletics, the track coach and the football coach, I had to maintain a certain GPA. I didn't really start digging in till I got to college, because literally I would be in the library because I had access to so much information. So I became less bored because I was filling the brain up with all this information. So it's hard how do I say this? In many spaces, I'm well studied. If I choose to get into something, dig into something, I can equal most people, I don't care who they are, on information, because I will consume it. So that's the kind of person I am. And so with consuming information, it's funny because I caught up with one of my college teammates, and he said to me, he said, the first time I met you, you were in the library. He said, I didn't understand that. He said, I know a lot of athletes. He said, why were you in the library? And I told him, I said, look, man, I knew my GPA coming out of high school wasn't great. I had a full scholarship. There was no way I was going to lose it. And you give me access to stuff, I'm going to take it. Like, you're not going to outsmart me, even the professors. So you give me that access, I'm going to sit in that library, I'm going to consume everything possible. You give me an assignment, you're going to get it. You're going to get it all back. So part of the book was, again, if I'm asking other folks, do they know who they are? Do I know me? Literally, the title is It's in Our Bones. And so if you look, once somebody looks at the cover, it's a cane corso, a dog I love. If I could have one, I would have it in my house, but my wife has allergies, so we can't have one. And what's coming out of the bone, the marrow that's coming out of here, is integrity, joy, trauma, culture, bias, fear, rage. those things are deep in the marrow of who I am. That rage can come out in ways that's harmful to me and others. Fear, if I choose fear over integrity, forget about it. You're going to get the worst parts of Bart Bailey. If I choose integrity over fear, you're going to get the best parts of me. Joy, I love sitting in joy. There's good things about life. Trauma, if I have not processed my trauma and I'm engaging with somebody else, I'm going to blow dirty pain into your body till you feel it. If I've processed the trauma and it's clean pain, then I'm going to engage with you with humanity and humility. Culture shapes so much. You'll hear people say that culture, and indigenous folk will say culture is our medicine. And I believe that for indigenous people. They have some unhealthy practices, but the medicine wheel, if you've ever looked at it and understand what's on the medicine wheel, even the 4 colors alone, the white, the yellow, the red, and the black, there's significance to those 4 colors. But if you understand the 4 seasons that we have in our country, if you live in an area that has the 4 seasons, it's intentional. You have to have winter. There's a purpose for it. And so if we understand that the culture can be our medicine, but for some of us, some of our culture is actually trauma that we've allowed to be culture that's actually harmful for us, it is not a medicine. And so bias shows up in ways that we include these things or exclude these things without even conscious awareness. So this cover, folks kind of don't understand, is significant. Like if you don't even read the book, if you really dove into the cover, it's all right here. If you've ever seen me do the cover, the book cover reveal with Resmo Nakam, he gets it. And he actually says it. I'm like, shoot, he shouldn't be saying all that.
Yeah.
So he says
that's for me to say.
No, I want people to read it. But he breaks it down by just looking at the cover. So, the book, my publishing coach was Veronica Moore. And she was like, look, Bart, just so you know, the average author sells 250 books. That's it. That's it. I'm like, shoot, I did all this work for 250 books. You gotta be out. No, there's no way. And so she set a goal, and in 6 months, we sold 500. I haven't kept count, so I can't tell you where we are now. But you can look it up I can look it up through Spark, which is where your books are housed and whatnot. But we hit 500 within 6 months. And that's without actually doing a book tour. The stuff you saw was some local stuff that we did. So we released the book intentionally. Remember the thing about Courage, my son, open heart surgery. Mm-hmm. I was intentional about releasing the book on Valentine's Day, 2025. Mm-hmm. So Valentine's, the heart, all that. So it'll be a year this February, and then actually 2026 is when I plan to do 5 intentional tours. One in Oakland, one in South Dakota, and then there's like 3 other ones that we're going to be doing.
Incredible. So in terms of like logistics, how long did it take you to write the book? Like, is it like 60,000 words? Is it like more or less? Are there graphics within the book?
Yeah. So
even maybe like if you're able to share like how much it costed you, these are the kind of things that like authors and prospective authors would love to know.
Yeah, so for me, one thing that I'll share is that I had a bunch of stories. So even now, people can see, like I could probably create another book for my Substack. So I do a bunch of Substack articles that quite frankly could be a book. And so I would write a bunch of things because part of my process of being present is to slow down and reflect. That comes back to my childhood where my mother would often ask me and my sister, like if we did something good or bad. So tell me a little bit about that thing. right? And so then you start talking about it, and then, you know, do you understand the impact of what you did? Do you understand your intentions behind that thing? And so it got to the point where it would be exhausting. Like my sister would be like, especially if we did something bad, can we just get a spanking instead, right? But it forces you to slow down and reflect. And so I have a practice where I'm writing. I got notes everywhere. So I had a bunch of these stories written. What I did for me is, you know, you can bring a ghostwriter in to do whatever. I had somebody come in just to organize the flow of all these stories I had. So he came in, they're my stories, he organized the flow, and then I changed it back a little bit because I didn't like the way he did it, but he did an amazing job to really organize my flow. And then going back and forth, I wanted reflective questions at the end of, not every, but most chapters have reflective questions. So I kind of had a vision for what I wanted the book to be and how I wanted it to show up. And then talking to Veronica, I did not want to give up any rights. So she shared with me, if you self-publish, how you do that. Getting the ISBN, so you'll see us. You have access to. I prefer people to buy the book through our website, but you can get it on Amazon. But the way we set it up, those are my ISBN numbers to my books. You can do it another way, where it's actually Amazon owns the ISBN, and you get less commission of the book, right? So the way we're set up, and I can't give you the exact numbers, but more of the money comes directly to us than other folks, right? Because we did it by way of self-publishing. Then we are, you got to go through Spark, and again, that's another process so that you can be listed. So you can buy our book from bookshop.org. And I prefer people to do that because if you buy it, part of that money goes back to local independent bookstores. Like they got some pretty cool stuff. So we often ask people, come to the website to get it. If not there, then bookshop.org. If not there, then Amazon. The next part of our process is the audio book.
Yes.
So we're going to be doing that sometime in 2026 to record that. We have a friend of ours who that's one of her part-time jobs. She does a lot of audiobooks, so she's going to be coaching us on doing it. And the reason why I say us, because you're going to hear 4 voices on that. You're going to hear my youngest son, Ivan. You're going to hear the coach, because her poem is actually in the book. She's going to read her poem. You'll hear me do a piece, and then Khalil, my oldest son, will do most of the narration of the book. So you're going to hear, you know, me and my sons, as well as the person who wrote the poem. Cost, you know, at this point, man, I don't remember. I don't remember the cost to put the book together. But what I would say is, you know, going the route of, you know, having somebody like Veronica in your corner, you cut the cost down. Veronica's done this so many times where I needed, you know, you're supposed to have somebody copy edit. She hooked me up with somebody who did that at way less than it would have been. The book cover was that I probably paid more than, it's somebody who does artwork. So if you follow the Ravens, there's a guy, Brian Baumstar, he's created he's a huge Ravens fan. He's been in that locker room. He's created this artwork for a lot of the players. He actually, you know, when a couple of weeks ago, some of the players had their cleats painted or something for their cause. He did some of the players' cleats. This is his first book cover. And he did something else for me, so I asked him to do this. So depending on how you want to go, I could have asked Veronica, it would probably been a whole lot less. Because there's actually an alternate book cover that we're not using that was way less than this cover. So it depends on what you want to do. Really, it's the story that you want to tell. What is the story I want to tell? and you choose how many words you want it to be. I didn't want it to be, you person could finish this in a couple hours, right? You could literally read this entire book in, I would say, 4 hours. It looks thick, but the font is big because I'm getting old, can't see. I want to make sure people can see the font, so it's pretty large font. But I can say, if you like to read, you could probably finish this book in about 4 hours.
How long did it take to write it?
It took a couple months because I had the stories, but I had to redo some of them, and the way the way the stories were written, it was on a scratch piece of paper, so I had to remember what the heck I was trying to write. So it was probably about 6 months to get it organized and done.
Okay, so do you ever use like dictation where you talk to the phone and it writes?
So I used it for Word. So I got dictation.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing because it's speech to text.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I got 2 or 3 paragraphs now. I got to organize that into something that people are going to read.
Yeah,
just me talking.
Just raw. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we talked about your family and your upbringing. We talked about Courage to Care. We talked about your book and even your plans for next year, 2026, of doing a book tour. So can we talk a little bit about some of the Black-owned businesses and organizations that you encounter and some of the ones that you would like to maybe shout out or recommend? Because you talked about this one place, I want to say it was a spa, maybe in DC. Mm-hmm. And that was more of an experience for you. That wasn't just a regular spot to support. So maybe like spots like that as you travel, that you'd like to put out there, or individuals even.
Yeah, so, a couple things that I'll share with you. So the way we try to navigate, I am a product, right? So I've mentioned that I'm working with a family, white family, who's, they call it reckoning with their history. And when I go back and look at my grandparents and great-grandparents, all 4 go back to some plantation. So we've been on this Turtle Island for a minute and disconnected from wherever I'm indigenous from. And I can't even tell you, right? All I can tell you is that our family got off a boat somewhere here on Turtle Island and was forced into chattel slavery. That's what I can tell you. And so with that being said, to answer your question, obviously most of the business that I frequent, right? So grocery store, this, that, and the other, are owned by large corporations that are probably not, or that are not Black owned or led. However, when I can do that, we try to support and turn that dollar over more than once. So you've come, taken pictures of me, and even the house, more than once.
And Ivan for his
graduation. The plumber who comes to our house is a guy named Josh, who, I don't even know the name of his business, but he's local here, Bethlehem, I believe, and does phenomenal work. And not only did he do the plumbing, but he redid our entire kitchen. We had Wanda, who's an interior design. Folks will see, she posted some stuff. If you follow me, you'll on Facebook or you'll end up running into Wanda, who's local here in the Lehigh Valley, who did phenomenal work in our hallways, I guess you would call it, foyer, our dining area, and our another little area we have that just came out exceptional. We actually got Sheila Bridges, if folks Google it, Sheila Bridges wallpaper in our dining area that just is unbelievable. We frequent, and I'm gonna end up with the one you asked, Marcellus Farms, which is in Brandywine, Maryland. Is a black-owned farm, but also more than that, we had my mother's birthday party there. She has a house that you can rent out, but then there's smaller houses that go around this property that you could literally do an entire family reunion there. The husband, they hunt. Like if you do whatever, you can have anything you want. So if you wanted deer, they could do that. We had it catered from a place that's in the DC, Maryland area, Muslim owned, called Sweet Tooth. Phenomenal food, exceptional food. The place you're talking about is Wellspring Manor in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Myself and Kevin Alexander and his wife Lisa, we've been hosting a men's retreat every March. That's why we do the virtuals now, because Ben was saying we wanted to stay in touch. So we will be doing another one at their spa March 14th. And we will be in a barn, and the barn is full of art. Primarily, I'm pretty sure, maybe all black art. And so it's a place where you can just go and your shoulders drop and you relax. Other places we like to go, which is a little bit more, you're going to spend a little bit more money, is a Salamander down in Middleburg, Virginia. That is owned by Sheila Johnson, and that's another place that we find we can easily disconnect. And then anywhere, pretty much, Martha's Vineyard is another place that we like to go when we need to reset. So those are some of the, I would say, some of the touch points or some of the places we like to go and support that are black owned. Also here, I don't know how much work he's still doing, because I think he kind of closed up his shop a little bit. Yeah, I'm pausing on whether or not I should say, but anyway, there's an electrician who does a lot of work, but I don't want to say his name because he's kind of closing his shop. He's working for somebody else. But if you're looking for an electrician, you end up reaching out, I can connect you if he's still doing that work. So I don't want to say it now without confirming with him. And he's like, yeah, Bart, I'm not doing that.
Is he like a younger guy or older guy?
He's in his 40s.
I think I know.
Yeah, most people know him.
He's a crazy guy, right?
No.
Oh, he's not crazy?
No, crazy. No,
no,
crazy,
not him then. Because the guy I know was crazy. Wearing like masks of like famous people.
Oh, no.
And all that stuff.
But good guy. He's done a lot of work in my house, but part of being an entrepreneur was exhausting him. So now he's still an electrician, but he's working for another firm instead of doing his own work.
Okay. All right, absolutely. So, all right, we touched on some black-owned businesses, your book, Courage to Care. What's next for you? Like, I know you have your book tour coming up. And I guess before we pivot, can you talk a little bit more about the men's retreat? Like, how much does this cost? Is it a weekend?
Yeah. So the men's retreat, March 14th.
One day?
It's one day. The last time we did charge something, I don't remember what it was, but it's all day, and we'll be posting both on Facebook and LinkedIn. I have somebody who manages my Instagram, so they'll probably post under Courage to Care, our Instagram, and then Wellspring Manor will be posting about it as well. While we've been doing virtual, they've been doing in-person for young people called Breathe. So when we get there on March 14th, it'll be to everybody, folks that have been virtual, if you could make it down, the young people that they've been having in the space doing the Breathe, will all gather together. But like I said, the cost is reasonable, and if folks are in a situation where money is tight, they need to just let us know, and we'll try and figure out. We don't want the cost to be prohibitive to somebody's healing. So, but there is a cost, obviously, to rent the barn and food and all that. So we'll work with folks if we need to, or if they're tight in that way. But it will be a full day. Typically, it depends on the subject matter. We've gone from explaining more about diabetes. You had me talk about that a little bit, or we'll talk about prostate cancer. We've talked about mental health. We've talked about all kinds of stuff. And what's interesting is that many men, and then particularly black men, don't talk about their health. So I've been posting about my journey with diabetes. Lost 60 pounds, October 24, was 290. My A1C was 7.7. That's not a good number. That says that you're type 2 diabetes. October of 2025, down to 230. A1C was 4.7, somewhere around there. That's a good number. But that work has to continue. I'm probably going to stay around 230. This is kind of light for me. It's kind of interesting because your clothes don't fit. But probably stay around there. I did choose to take the GLP-1, so I've been taking that shot as well. But the biggest change for me was I eat less. Walk every day. I do about 2 miles. I try to jog 50% of that walk. Don't have to jog at all. Just got to walk and move.
How far did you say you walk? And did you say it's every
about
day?
2 miles every day.
2 miles every single day.
Every day. Yeah. Now, if it's really bad, we have a treadmill. I'll do the treadmill in the house. Also, I have a Peloton bike. And then I do a 20-minute meditation inside of this sauna. It's a portable sauna. So, and so my plan is January, I will stop with the GLP. Well, more like January, February, March. February, I'll stop taking the GLP-1 shot, and then go back to one of the gyms that I used to go to. In between the gym, maintaining, the portions on the plate, I should be good. The other thing that I chose to do is I haven't had one drink of alcohol since the end of March, because some of the other meds that I was taking for blood pressure and stuff like that, doctor told me that alcohol has a non-positive impact on the effectiveness of your drugs that you're taking. So I'm not going to be taking blood pressure medicine, then drinking alcohol and making it less effective. That makes no sense. Mm-hmm. Like I'm working against my own body. So that kind of stuff I learned from my doc and my therapist as well, about how to best manage my health. But also, when we gather together in Wellspring, we'll have professionals in there that will tell you, right? So it's not just, but we have some professionals in the space that are going to talk about mental health, that are going to talk about your physical well-being and what we can or should be doing for our own healing and well-being.
Okay, so if you don't mind, like about the alcohol thing, like I've probably had like 2 drinks of alcohol maybe in like a year and a half or a year. I don't know, just the way that I was raised, my peers and friends, drink, and family a little bit too. Mm-hmm. Almost every day, my stepfather would have a large drink of liquor at a certain time every night, and I just learned that it was one of the worst things of any drug that you could have in your body. And would you mind like touching on how that has impacted you? Is it just, hey, I just don't drink because my meds and that's it? Or have you like had some times where you're like, wow, I really want to drink, or stress, or do you have any comments about that at all?
So I am a bourbon, Scotch connoisseur. Mm-hmm. So I've spent, the price didn't matter. If it tastes good, I would have bought it. And the flavor is cool, you know, and it was more like, so I sit outside and I burn my fire pit year round. And so I could sit out there in the middle of the snow with the fire pit, with a glass, and just chill and reflect. And, you know, similarly, you know, I have friends who drink, I have family members who drink, and, you know, one of the things I could sit out and maybe have one or two, or if it's Saturday and it's a football game, I'll finish the whole bottle. And, you know, now that's over a long period of time. I ain't sitting there just guzzling. But at the end of the day, it wasn't benefiting. So what's the point, right? And what I realized, we were looking at something. Facebook does these things where stuff pops up, and
this a year ago today and all that.
Yeah, it popped up a 6 year ago picture that was actually something I did for the chamber. And I'm looking at this picture. If I was 290 a year ago, in that picture, I had to be over 290. Had to be. And so what I have learned about my body with not drinking any alcohol, the alcohol, I think, not only does it impact the meds, but it was doing something to my weight that wasn't helpful. And then in addition to that, I don't think it's beneficial for the work I do. Like, that can't be a stress relief. So if I'm going to have a conversation around people and their trauma, people and their identity, people and their racial identity or their biases, and then my decompression includes alcohol, that's not going to help. My decompression has to be me journaling, going for a walk, me working out. That's going to allow it to be released from my body. The alcohol is just masking it. It doesn't release from my body. And what I need is to have that person's conversation, be present with them, honor their conversation, release it from my body so I can be present with my family. If I do all that other stuff, don't release it from my body, now I got the alcohol, this person's trauma, all that showing up in my household. So for me, the alcohol was masking what I need to do to decompress.
Okay. That's amazing. I love, like, we talked about so much today. Honestly, your first, like, comment, like, the first things that you were saying was so dense. I was like, wow, we got to unpack all of this. But there's only so much time. Again, you know, given the audience of entrepreneurs, young people, and honestly, people of all ages and kinds, what other comments that do you have? You know, this is the time of the year we're going to, in about a week, it'll be the new year of 2026. My birthday is in about 2 weeks, and Christmas and New Year's, it's all together for me. So this is a reflection. You're talking about reflection. It's big for me. So what kind of thoughts come to mind that you would want to share as a final note, or, you know, of what's next for you?
Yeah, you know, I'll give a final note more so than what's next. I think that what's next I kind of commented on already. I want to try, as I'm talking, to find, because I want to give the fraternity brother a shout out. What I would say is this. There he is. So John Register is a fraternity brother of mine and an Olympian, and actually ran hurdles. And actually, I never knew that you could get hurt, seriously hurt, running hurdles, but it ended up having to have his leg amputated by an injury. But John, we met a couple months ago, is an amazing human being. he was telling me he has the ability to truly be present when you're talking to him. So if you, Carter, were to call John and I connected you and you said, I got this business called McKinney Media, and this is what I do and this is why I do it. He's going to ask you a few questions. And he's going to say, well, why do you do it? And you're going to say whatever you say. Most likely, he's going to reframe whatever you said to him. He told me a story about this woman who said that her story was about being a butterfly. There's a lot of people that use that. And she had something for the 4 wings and all this stuff. But then she's told a story about some stuff that she had been through. And I don't know if it was in that call or the next call, John is telling me the story where he said, nah, I don't think it's a butterfly. She said, well, what are you talking about? No, it's got to be a butterfly. I said, nah, I think it's a dragonfly. So the story of the dragonfly, dragonflies in the water, messing around, and then it goes through this experience, transform into this dragonfly, right? And that was her story. There was some pretty significant trauma that was related to her story. And so I know he did that for a friend of mine. And so I've been connecting folks with him. So in this season of reflection, and this is what I would say to any entrepreneur, if you come back and after your season of reflection, and the thing you say is your purpose and passion, I can see that with everybody else saying the exact same thing. That may not be it. So when I say that I understand my assignment that has been passed down to me from generations is that I have an obligation to remove barriers that hinder myself and others from striving. Nobody else has that tagline. That's on every email that I send. Be clear about what you are doing and what that means. So if somebody wants to label what I just said as DEI, you do that. You want to label it as whatever, you do that. But I just told you what it is. And to me, it's more than any of those. It is our collective humanity. It is talking about race. It is talking about identity. It is talking about belonging. It's talking about all of that. It's talking about being present. Like if you sit in front of me and you got your phone out, I will literally stop. Because you're not present with me. 70% of our communication is nonverbal. If you don't understand what's happening with my body when I'm talking to you, then you're missing 90% of the conversation, not 70, even though it says 70. Because my body reacts in a certain kind of way. So, my obligation is to remove barriers that hinder myself and others from thriving.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Bart Bailey, for your time coming on the Entrepreneurs Club podcast. This is episode 4.
All right.
You're the second guy to come on to this podcast. I actually started off with 2 ladies, hoping to get my fiance and some other amazing people on here as well. But it's been truly a pleasure. I know that this podcast, this episode, is probably the densest. Like, you would have to take notes or transcribe it and like look up every person, spend about 30 minutes, 15 minutes looking at it, then press play again. So that's the kind of content that we want on here. I think it could be really cool to do maybe another podcast with you in the future. I want to even explore doing some more things with your book, maybe an event or something like that. The reason why I'm saying it during the podcast is that it's here now. It'll be public domain. People will be able to see this. You'll be able to see the recording of this in your family, in your colleagues, or any of that. And we can see what comes from it. I would love to attend the Wellspring Manor event. I would love to continue to be part of the monthly conversations. Maybe even be a leader in one of them, and I think I told you that.
Yeah.
Have you ever done like a keynote speech?
Yeah.
Like many times? Mm-hmm. So like, what's the biggest crowd that you've addressed? Like as a speaker, kind of any kind?
I think it was 500 or so.
500 people?
Yeah.
Was it a chamber event?
No, it was something out of state.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But it's funny because most of my work is out of state.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. A lot of people say that in the Lehigh Valley. So what was your, like, so you're just saying that all of your speaking engagements, a lot of your clients, everything just comes naturally, word of mouth. It just happens that way. Yeah.
So two things. And one of the things that, there's a lot of different connections that I have. You had mentioned before we started, so ASALA is the is the study of life and history for African Americans in the United States and beyond. And so ASALA actually, when you think about Black History Month, is coming up in February. Carter G. Woodson did all his work by way of ASALA. ASALA is one of the oldest organizations that are in this country. Many people don't even know what ASALA is. ASALA sets the theme for Black History Month every year. And even though I live here in the Lehigh Valley, I'm the president of the Truth branch of ASALA, which is Prince George's County, Maryland. So, again, going back, Prince George's County, highest per capita income for African Americans in the world, there are connections that come about, whether it's Wellspring or anything else. There's just a lot of things that just naturally happen. And because of the spaces that I navigate in, because of the fraternity, because of just some other stuff, I'm very active with American Nurses Association. Most of my clients are healthcare. So it's large healthcare institutions, and somebody will say, well, who do you work with? And they'll tell them Bart Bailey. So it tends to grow that way. In addition to, I ran some leadership programs through Greater Washington. And one of the clients was in a workshop that I was in, and she was like, well, I want you to come do some work with my business, right? So a lot of the stuff comes because I did something else, and then somebody was like, oh, this guy Bart. So we haven't had to market per se, or even go after RFPs, even though we want to try to do that. I'm personally a little reluctant to go after RFPs. And there's a whole conversation around that because of watching the old company that I work for pursue them, and the amount of effort that was put into an RFP for somebody to say no. I don't have the tolerance for that. The old company I worked for, Cook Ross, put a lot of effort and time into responding to RFPs, and folks would choose some other company, and I just thought that was a waste of time. So yeah, it's been really organic so far.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree on the whole RFP thing. Like, it sucks when you put so much time and effort into customizing something and personalizing it, having your own experience with it, sharing it, and then it's not accepted. I guess for my business and some of my clients, it's that, not that you can't grow with like cultivating the same clients and referrals, but I don't know. I guess trying to push for like dynamic, like huge growth in a way feel like maybe you would have to, but maybe not.
Listen, RFPs are there. I think it is a good practice. You know, I was talking to somebody else though today that this just, I don't know. So something came up today, somebody I know, where it's wild how the world works. 2 calls, 2 colleges, 1 in Pennsylvania, 1 in New Jersey, but the conversations were similar. One doesn't have a whole bunch of money, so I'm probably going to do it pro bono, which is fine. The other one, the guy instantly said, oh, we can go after a grant. Like it was no big deal. We'll go after a grant, cover your costs, boom, boom, boom. So part of it is being able to navigate in space, and not everything is about the dollar. The local school here, the college here, that's in Pennsylvania, they don't have a whole bunch of funds. So I'm willing to do something off of honorarium. I ain't gonna do a whole lot of that, but I'm willing to do that to support them. The other one is a larger school who has access to grants. Guys like Bart, don't worry about it. We're gonna cover your costs. And so one is whatever your business is, being mindful of the spaces you're in, being mindful of the power that's in those spaces, being mindful of the money that's in those spaces. Like, there's only so much pro bono, there's only so much honorarium that you're going to, that I would do, that I'm going to talk about Bart, that Bart's going to do, because then it becomes I'm devaluing who I am. I'm devaluing my business. So there's only so much I'm going to do, but I'm going to do some of it because it depends on who reaches out to me, depending on the relationship, depending on the community impact that I want to have, that I'm not caught up in that dollar. But again, I do have a business. I got employees, not 1099, I got employees. And so I got to make sure that, you know, that we're covering the pay and their insurance. So.
Yeah, and my experience, like, especially in the creative industry, like, people, they hate the, getting paid in exposure, doing this for, I can't pay my bills with this or that or whatever. It's got to be cash or whatever, like people being strict. And you do have to put your foot down and have a boundary, but there has been some really interesting, I like to call them side quests sometimes, where I did something for honorarium, I did something for pro bono or volunteer, and some really cool things have come out of it, or just it was a cool room to be in that day. It didn't hurt to add it to my portfolio.
No.
I was just thinking about that this morning, so absolutely. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. Can you just tell people where to find you did touch on the book, but where to find your book, yourself, and your business, and we'll sign off.
Yeah, I think what we'll do, I'm sure you'll have it somewhere underneath the podcast or wherever, but the website is www.c, the number 2, then C, then Jedi, JEDI.com. So it's c2cjedi.com is the website for the business. You can get the book there. It's a tab over. It'll say, to buy the book. You can get that there. And then you can reach to us by way of the website as well. There's a spot where you can fill out the form if you've got questions or want to engage that way. The other one, I'm on both Facebook and LinkedIn, both my own name, Bart Bailey, or you can find, it'll either say C2C or Courage to Care. And anytime you see the C2, it's the number 2 and not TO. But both of those are on both LinkedIn, Facebook, and then we have somebody who navigates the Instagram. So if you reach out that way, it'll eventually come to us as well. So those are the ways to get in touch. And if you don't, if you want to get the book outside of the website, like I said, the second option I would recommend is bookshop.org, because they get back to local independent bookstores. If you are a person who's an Amazon person, you can get it there. It's listed on Amazon as well. So those are the way to get in touch.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to seeing how your book grows. Maybe like Barnes Nobles or like there's some black-owned bookstores as well, like Uncle Bobby's in Philadelphia. I know Will Smith and a bunch of other people have done their things through there. I've actually been there. And yeah, so thank you so much for your time and expertise. It's been more than valuable to me, and I know it will also be to our listeners. Again, guys, this has been episode 4 of the Entrepreneurs Club podcast. I'm Carter McKinney. This is the amazing Bart Bailey, and Courage to Care, and it's in our bones. So stay tuned, follow his journey and stay tuned with ours too. The podcast also has a Facebook group, so it's about 1,500 members right now as of December of 2025. And join to, share your information, get some information, and we also have events that we host. So come by and network with us and stuff like that. All right, this is Carter McKinney signing off, episode 4. Good luck, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.